too. Well, we are delighted to bring back today, of course, our friend Remy Adeleke. He is a former Navy SEAL intelligence officer working on a new masterclass with our friend Ryan Holiday. We're going to hear about that at the top of the next hour. But right now, we're going to speak with C.J. Hopkins. If you have not heard this story, buckle up. It is an epic tale of government excess, I would say, and censorship. He is a playwright, a novelist, a political satirist, and he's, I believe, expatriated in Germany, where he has been now the focus of, I would say, jurisprudential abuse, but he will tell us the story. You choose for yourself. You can follow him at cjhopkins.com. Also, cjhopkins_Z23. You'll have to tell us about what that's all about. That's on X. So we will get to the interview right after this. Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. Joint and muscle pains are exhausting and frustrating, but I've got a over-the-counter medication I'll introduce you to that provides great relief using the power of, check it out, chili peppers. Capsadyn is made with a proprietary formula that contains no non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, no opioids, no anesthetic or steroid, nothing, no chance for addiction, no side effects, no chance it's going to interact with other medication you might be taking. Capsadyn contains capsaicin, which is the substance in chili peppers that burns your tongue. That gives you that burny feeling. And of course, I've recommended capsaicin creams to patients over the years, but other capsaicin creams burn your skin. That's what makes Capsadyn so unique. In clinical trials, Capsadyn has actually been demonstrated not to burn.
I've been using Capsadyn to relieve my pain in my hands and my wrist from carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis. The results have been amazing. I use it every day during my show, and I highly recommend it.
Get the pain relief you need from various sources, even backache, sprains, bruises even. Order now at capsadyn.com/Drew to get a 15% discount plus free shipping. That is CAPSADYN, capsadyn.com/DREW. All right, let's get right to it. C.J. Hopkins, as I said, is an award-winning playwright, novelist, political satirist, and he made the sort of minor miscalculation, I would say, of putting an image on one of his book covers that got him in a lot of trouble. He has appealed. The appeals have been, again, bizarre from the standpoint of the adjudication. He, let's see, I want to tell you where his plays have been played internationally at Riverside Studios, London, Traverse Theatre, Edinburgh, Belvoir Saint Theatre, Sydney. Political satire appears in Consent Factory, Off Guardian, and Zero Hedge. CJHopkins.com is where you should follow him. CJ, welcome to the program. And before I say hello, well, explain to me the CJ Hopkins _Z23 on X.
First, thanks so much for having me on. The Z23 refers to my novel. I think I joined Twitter shortly after I published my first novel, my only novel so far, and the novel is Zone 23. C.J. Hopkins was already taken, so I needed to put something on the end of it, and that's the first thing that came to mind.
Fair enough. So take us through this epic tale, if you don't mind. It really is Homerian in its scope. I've heard you tell it before, and I would love if you would share it with my audience. You and I have a little bit of a delay here. Are you in Berlin right now?
Yes.
Yeah. And so if I jump on you, it's that delay is the reason. I may have some follow-up question to something. So if you hear me sort of jumping in there, it's probably late and it's probably something you said a few seconds earlier. But please do tell us how this all happened to you and bring us up into the present moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll manage the delay. Do you want the whole story? It's a long story.
Well, let's do it in chapters. So
All
let's do chapter 1.
Chapter 1. So chapter 1, I'm writing my satirical, my political satire, my essays that I've been publishing on the Consent Factory for years now. And every couple of years, I collect them, the best of them, what I think are the best, in a book, and I put a book out. So I did this in 2022, and it was a collection of my essays from 2020 and 2021. So this was, during the so-called COVID pandemic. The title of the book is The Rise of the New Normal Reich. And I basically, my brilliant cover artist, Anthony Freda, and we stole William Shirer's cover. If people are familiar with William Shirer's classic, The Rise of and Fall of the Third Reich, we stole his cover, and I've got the book right here. You might recognize the cover. Yeah. What we did is we stole his cover, and we just covered up the swastika with a COVID mask. All right, so published the book. There it is. That's a much better image than I was able to produce. I published the book in May of 2022. And so fine, it was great. It was a Barnes & Noble bestseller when it was released, a bestseller on Amazon in numerous categories in numerous countries. Everything's going great. Jump to August of 2022. At this time in Germany, everybody was debating whether they should finally cancel the mask mandates. And there was just mass hysteria among the German public against canceling the mask mandates. And so I tweeted a couple of tweets and, to the effect that masks are just ideological conformity symbols, and that's all they are. And another tweet sort of mocking Karl Lauterbach, the Minister of Health here. And I included the cover art of the book on both of the tweets. This came to the attention of an entity called Hessen Cyber Competence Center. This entity is a department within a department of the Interior Ministry of the Federal State of Hessen. It's also a partner in the German anti-censorship network. It's called Cyber AZ. This entity saw the tweets, and within the space of 48 hours, my tweets were censored by Twitter. The book was banned in Germany by Amazon, and then later it was also banned in the Netherlands and Austria. I was reported to the Federal Criminal Police Office, which is like the German FBI. The Federal Criminal Police Office forwarded the case to the Berlin district prosecutor. The Berlin prosecutor opened a criminal investigation of me, which I didn't find out about till a year later. Anyway, it culminated in me being charged for basically disseminating pro-Nazi propaganda. That's
hold on.
chapter one.
So that's a good. Yeah, it's a good place to stop. So I have a few questions and a little story of my own. We were in changing planes in Munich in the 2021-ish, was it? Yeah, and I walked down the hall of the airport. Hadn't been there more than about 10 minutes. When I said to Susan, I said to my wife, I said, "Oh, there's another California. It's called Germany," because the restrictions, the masking, everything was exactly like this godforsaken state, including they went one little step further in the German style. I don't know if you've been in the international sort of terminal there. There's like a coffee shop in an island. They sort of have it surrounded by a kind of a hedge. And it's open air, it's crowded, and you have to wait in line to get in. And the woman comes to me in the line. She, of course, is dutifully masked. What's that?
We had masks
We had masks on. Yeah, we didn't have the right kind of mask. I had to go to the pharmacy. First thing she does is point at the pharmacy, and screams at me in German that I have to go get the right kind of mask. Okay, I go get the mask. I stand back in line. Now it's time for me to go to the table, and the table is 4 feet from the line, where I'm going to sit down and take my mask off immediately upon sitting down, surrounded by people with their mask off. And I was like, I'm talking to this woman. Of course, there's a language problem. I'm like, it's 3 steps. I'm going to walk 3 steps. Don't make me go back and actually, that was the point she made me get the mask. I said, don't make me go to the pharmacy, get the mask. I've got 3 steps to the table you want to take me to so I can eat my sausage. Go. How dare you go? So there, and I thought, okay, well, I'm used to that in California. There we go. So you weren't alone in Germany. Let's put it that way. At that point in your story, what did you imagine was happening, and and I'll ask this also. Tell us about this Cyber Competence Center.
Well, the Cyber Competence Center, there's again, it's this network that is comprised of the Federal Criminal Police Office and the German Domestic Secret Service and other authorities, and it also includes this Hessen Cyber Competence Center, which, as I said, is this strange little entity. And it's one of the entities that is empowered to monitor the internet, looking for thought crime, hate speech, what have you. So it's part of this network that exists to do exactly this, is to find speech that can be prosecuted and censored. And that's what it does.
What did you put up there, Caleb? This is another.
This is a recent post.
This,
from his account
this
about
is
other
UK
journalists.
though, right?
I'm showing
UK.
examples of a bunch of them that he's recently been posting about journalists and writers being persecuted.
I see. Well, it's UK is just right behind Germany.
Well, I don't know if they're behind Germany anymore. Apparently, this crazy case, the police showing up. I mean, Alison Pearson is a journalist. She writes for the Telegraph. One of the mainstream papers in London. It's insane. And the police showed up at her door and wanted to question her about a crime that they couldn't even describe to her, couldn't even tell her what she'd been charged with. And this was, as far as I understand it, this was part of a widespread sweep in the UK of the police going to many people's homes. She was just one of them, a prominent person, but going to many people's homes and harassing them about things that they put on social media. At the same time that was happening in the UK, it was also happening here in Germany. There was a case, Americans probably don't know about it. It happened just a couple of days ago. A 64-year-old man basically made fun of Robert Habeck, the economics, the minister of the economy, and called him a dummy. They charged him with incitement of hatred, and the police raided his home at 5 a.m. And confiscated his computer and scared his kid with Down syndrome and just real goon squad type stuff. Should I get to chapter 2 of my story?
Well, after this one question, which I suspect I'll be asking at the end of each chapter, why didn't you come home, or did you at least think about coming home?
I've been here for 20 years. I'm dug in. My wife has a business here. She's a yoga teacher. She's got a yoga studio that she runs. I'm basically a hermit. I've been a hermit my whole life, but she has lots of friends. And there's a whole social network. And basically, I've been here for 20 years and I'm dug in. That's reason number one. Number two is I don't like bullies, and I don't like to run away, and I kind of resent being chased out of Germany. If I do leave, and that's definitely a possibility, it'll be when this is all over. But it certainly won't be. It certainly won't be in response to them trying to drive me out.
Good for you. Are you fully? How does that work? Are you fully expatriated? How does that work? 20 years in another country?
I'm an American. I'm still an American citizen. I just have, an indefinite residence permit. I've got a permanent residence permit here.
Got it. Let me ask a political question before we go on to this story, because it just kept occurring to me, and I'm sure it'll drive me crazy as this story gets worse and worse. But I've been preoccupied with the French and their politics lately, and I heard some rather extraordinary conversations on French television and radio suggesting that what's about to happen is Donald Trump's going to suggest to the Germans that the United States pull out of some of its defense coverage of the German Republic, and that he'll do, in compensation for that, he'll loosen up the car exports over to us and suggest that the French come in and provide the defense. What do you say to that? This is the French's, this is not our idea. This is the French's view of things, by the way. It's French politicians saying this. So I don't know what's real and what's not, but go ahead.
Yeah. I don't want to rag on the French politicians so much, but it sounds kind of silly to me. Germany. Okay,
well, we'll see. We'll see.
Germany.
We'll see. It'd be weird.
Germany is the empire's headquarters in Europe. And NATO's headquarters in Europe. It's not going to happen.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so now chapter 2.
So chapter 2. So I've been charged, with this hate crime, with disseminating pro-Nazi propaganda. The way it works in Germany is you don't go to trial right away. The court decides that you're guilty, and they issue what's called an order of punishment. In German, it's a Strafbefehl. So I received my order of punishment, sentencing me to 60 days in jail or a fine of 3,600 euros. I got a lawyer. We challenged that, and long story short, went to my first trial in district court, criminal court, for 2 tweets, let's remember, in January. And of course, I was acquitted in the space of about 30 seconds after, the proceedings. A lot of Americans might not understand. A lot of Americans might know that swastikas are banned in Germany. And there is a swastika ban. There's a ban on Nazi symbols. What a lot of people don't understand is that, of course, there are exceptions to this ban. You couldn't show a Quentin Tarantino movie or teach a history course if there weren't exceptions, right?
Right.
A couple of the exceptions that are written into this ban on Nazi symbols, one is art, satire and what have you. And another one is if you are displaying swastikas in order to counter or to protest against anti-constitutional activity. Right. Which, of course, is exactly what I was doing. I was comparing the totalitarian COVID measures, not just of the German government, but of most governments in the West, nearly all of them. I was comparing those totalitarian measures to the rise of Nazi Germany. And I did that in many of my essays in the book. So that exception exists. I went to trial in January. The judge didn't like me at all. She acquitted me in about 30 seconds after the proceedings were done. And then she proceeded to belittle me and call me names and what have you. And then she strapped on her COVID mask and stalked out of the courtroom. But the point was she followed the law. She acquitted me. Here comes the part that'll really blow Americans' minds. In Germany, the prosecution is allowed to appeal an acquittal verdict. And they did.
Right.
The prosecution appealed my acquittal, and that meant chapter 3. Now I was going to...
So hold on. Before chapter 3, I as you were telling chapter 2... what happened with this? Is there a swastika on the first book cover, Caleb? I can't see it.
You're reaching for it. There it is.
It's just barely there.
I can't see it here. Is it on the mask?
It's right on the mask. I'd have to zoom in. Let's see if I can get a zoom on here.
Well,
you didn't have to blur it out or something.
Let's be precise because it drives me crazy. Yeah. It's not on the mask. It's the William Shirer book cover, and we covered the swastika with a mask.
Yeah, I see it. Yes, it's like partly covered. Yeah. I see it.
The whole point.
Got it.
The whole point of the artwork is for people to look at it and say, "Whoa, what's that underneath that COVID mask? What's behind the curtain there?" There you go. Yeah, one of the covers.
That's the original.
That one's even more blatant. There on the the one they were. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's the original book. That's the William Shirer book. Yeah. But it's so funny. Chapter 2, and I don't mean it is funny. Haha. I apologize. It's a little bit. I don't want to say it's your expense, but it's that your behavior here reminds me precisely of Galileo's before the Pope. I don't know if you're familiar with what he actually did that got himself in trouble. But he kept monkeying with some of his writings, and insisting on sort of pushing his agenda forward in subtle ways, in spite of people. There were people that got behind him and got with him, and the Pope got pissed, and then his good friend became Pope, and then he wrote a book, which was a dialogue, as they often were, amongst 3 characters. And Simplicio, the dummy, he put all the Pope's arguments in his mouth. And that was the final blow that sent him for the 3rd time, I believe, to the Spanish Inquisition, who prior to that had been very clement with him. They'd been very like, listen, this would be a lot for us if this is true. We'd have to change all the biblical interpretations, and we're not really ready to do that yet. So give us a minute, was sort of what they were saying. They were very thoughtful. When you really read what happened, they were just like, just kind of, Mr. Galileo, Dr. Galileo, please give us a chance, because this is a lot for us. This whole heliocentrism thing, maybe it's true, we don't know, but our biblical interpretation is very much dependent on the other. So just kind of keep it down a little bit. And off he went. So you remind me of the great Galileo. So that's a compliment. It's kind of funny, but have you always been this way? You said you don't like bullies. Has this been your approach your whole life? Yeah. Okay. So chapter 3.
Pretty much. I have a problem with authority. It's pretty clear, especially arbitrary authority.
Why shouldn't we all? We all should have that. It's like, it's insanity that we've had in this country, you've been gone long enough, you haven't seen the press sign up to be a part of the authorities. It's been weird. It's been positively mind-boggling. But anyway, Mr. Galileo, continue with chapter 3.
So chapter 3, the prosecution appeals my acquittal. And so I'm dragged into Superior Court, the highest court in Berlin. Before the trial, the first trial date that we had, they canceled that with less than 24-hour notice and rescheduled it. They imposed these bizarre draconian security measures on the trial, like full anti-terror style security measures. Everyone had to, go through metal detectors and get patted down, and everyone, including the press, had to surrender all of their personal possessions, put them in the bins. The press were not allowed to bring computers in or writing instruments. Special pens were provided to the press. And sheets of paper so they could scribble notes on their knees during the trial. It was all really kind of insane. Anyway, we go in for this appeal trial, and the prosecutor gets up and says about 4 sentences in a monotone. And my attorney gets up and makes brilliant arguments for about 40 minutes. I got up and made a rather passionate statement. And we take a little break, come back a few minutes later, and the judges overturn my acquittal and read out this a long explanation that they had obviously prepared well in advance of the trial. It's what I expected. When I found out that the Superior Court had accepted the prosecution's request for a new trial, I I pretty much figured, okay, they're going to overturn my acquittal. So I was found guilty by this appeals court. And I was, normally, this is where it gets complicated. Normally, if an appeals court like this finds you guilty, you go back to the district court and you have the rest of your trial. The appeals court found me guilty in a special way that prevents me from going back to district court and my attorney making the rest of his arguments. So that was a nice touch. The only thing that remained to us after that was to take the case to what is basically the German Supreme Court. It's the Bundesverfassungsgericht, the Constitutional Court of Germany. And so that's where we are. It was just a couple of days ago, my lawyer filed our appeal to the German Supreme Court.
So I think at the end of that chapter is a good time to take a little break. And because I want to hear your, if you're allowed to, I don't know if you feel in any way exposed by speculating, but your thoughts on what this is, what is happening here. If this were happening here, I would have ideas about what was happening and the excesses and how these cultural extraordinary shifts are occurring and who's doing it and the narcissistic turn that's happened in this country. It seems to have kind of, our bubble has sort of burst a little bit in some interesting way. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's sort of different here all of a sudden. And I'm wondering if you could give us your, because we're not in Germany. This all sounds like really like you're writing a script from 1944 or something. It's hard for us to like get our head around it. But I had somebody scream at me here, "Where are your papers?" So I thought I was in a 1940s war drama for a minute in California. So let's take a little break. Do you want people to go to CJ_Hopkins_Z23 or just to, I think you have CJ Hopkins is the other one, right?
The best way to find me, the best way to find me is to, first of all, just stick my name in a search engine and everything will come up. But my Substack is actually where most of the action is these days. That's where I'm publishing my essays. I also publish them on the Consent Factory blog where I started. But my Substack, CJ Hopkins Substack, is where it is.
And I'm guessing these are these in English and German or just English?
No, just in English. In English.
Okay, and do they serve any threat to your case?
What, my essays?
No. In other words, they cull through them and go, look what he said here too. We can see his intent to be a what would they call you? What do they call a subversive? I guess.
I'm a hate criminal. I'm a hate criminal, Doc. At this point, I am officially a hate criminal. I am a disseminator of pro-Nazi propaganda, according to the Germans. I'm sure that my essays, that my columns played a significant role in motivating the German authorities to come after me, but they can't really be used legally. There's still, there is still actually a constitution in Germany that nominally protects freedom of speech. So no, they can't come after me for those. That's why they have instrumentalized this law regarding the swastika ban in order to come after me. It was the only way that they could.
Yeah, this is a very familiar kind of historical detail, but we'll talk about it. I worry. I want you to prevail. I'm concerned, but it makes you angry to hear the story. When I first heard you tell it, I almost jumped out of my chair. It's mind-boggling, but I'm glad you're fighting the good fight. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to speculate about what's happening here, why it's happened, where else it could happen, what we do about it after this. The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and that is why they are constantly innovating to deliver the products and services to help you be rationally ready for an emergency. They've added a medical kit for kids to treat over 20 childhood illnesses: nausea, vomiting, allergies, asthma, bioterror, God forbid, croup ear infections, lice, and more. And you can also order the kids kit with an EpiPen. Carefully sourced, great price. If there's a risk of anaphylaxis for your kids, you want that EpiPen. That can be in all kits. each customized for a different purpose. It comes, of course, with a telemedicine consultation and a guidebook, and you can replenish the meds up to 2 years after the date of purchase. So go to drdrew.com/2WC for 10% off any medical emergency kit or supplements. That is drdrew.com/TWC. I want to teach you about pharmacogenomic testing. This is changing the way we approach healthcare. By analyzing a patient's genetic profile, pharmacogenomics helps physicians personalize drug treatments for more effective results. First, it enhances medication efficacy by predicting how a patient will respond to a specific drug, reducing the trial and error process, especially in mental health care. For example, it can guide the choice of various medications to minimize side effects and improve outcomes. In the long run, pharmacogenomic testing leads to cost savings. It shortens the time to find the right treatment and avoids expensive side effects. It also supports more personalized care, helping physicians make better decisions and ensuring that treatments are tailored to each individual's unique genetic makeup. Test simply requires you to swab your cheek, then you send in the sample to our lab. Discover the power of personalized medicine with pharmacogenomic testing. Tailor your treatments based on your unique genetic makeup. Reduce trial and error, avoid side effects, find the most effective medication for you. Take control of your health today. Go to drdrew.com/checkgenetics. That is drdrew.com/checkgenetics. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid, it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15.
And that's just trouble in a relationship.
Sean, who are you? Like Dr. Drew all of a sudden?
And stay cozy this fall with Cozy Earth. The best-selling bamboo sheet set is made from 100% premium viscose from bamboo, soft, breathable. You'll sleep several degrees cooler. And their women's stretch knit pajama set, also made with viscose from bamboo, is a timeless classic that keeps your temperature just right all through the night. Cozy Earth is dedicated to turning your home into a personal sanctuary, which is why they only use the best fabrics and textiles. All of the bedding and bath products come with a 100-night free trial, 100-night sleep trial, and 10-year warranty. But once you experience the comfort of Cozy Earth, you will never want to go back. Wrap yourself in luxury this fall with Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com/Drew and use the code Drew for the exclusive discount of up to 40%. And in their post-purchase survey, please let them know that you heard about Cozy Earth from this podcast. That is COZYEARTH.com/Drew. So let's get back to Hopkins, C.J. Hopkins. I want to shine a little light on something. This is fantastic. Somebody posted on our Rumble chat thread an article in defense of masks, which was a grotesquely overstated meta-analysis. But they make, this is so fascinating, they make a case for why masks are so important. Here's their fifth of their defenses. Masks are important socio-cultural symbols, Non-adherence to masking is linked to political and ideological beliefs and to widely circulated mis- or disinformation. In other words, you need to wear a mask because if you don't, we need to be worried about you. That is the most disgusting piece of shit article I've ever seen. This article is so bad. This journal is the journal ABSA International. It's the Association of Biosafety and Biosecurity. Whatever comes from this journal should be absolutely disregarded. That is wildly bizarre article. But anyway, you're going to put that on there. It's crazy. Susan, hang a second, CJ. Yes, you can. Just one quick second. Can you grab the book on masking? Go ahead, CJ.
Wait, which one?
The book on masking.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious for me to listen, to you read that out, because this is exactly, what I'm being prosecuted for. The second one of my tweets was actually a quote from Karl Lauterbach, the German health minister, who, is just a serial liar and an incredible fascist. Lauterbach was quoted by one of the mainstream newspapers, and they tweeted, this picture of Lauterbach in his article, and the quote was Lauterbach in German saying, "The masks always send out a signal." And my second tweet that I'm being prosecuted for is I simply retweeted that and put the quote on it and put my artwork in there. And that was my whole point. That is the purpose of the masks. The mask mandates were theater. They were always theater. The point of them was to generate this atmosphere of panic and make us all feel like we were living inside of an infectious disease ward. It might surprise people if I say this, because I had numerous arguments about this. People say, but masks do work. They use them in hospitals and they stop droplets. And if you're sick, you can put a mask on. And I said, great, I have no problem with that. And if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I have absolutely wear whatever you want on your face. I have no problem with this whatsoever. If you're sick and you're, sneezing and coughing up droplets and you want to put a mask on to stop, absolutely, to do whatever you feel is necessary. Me, I stay home when I'm sick, But my point is mandating mask wearing, mandating medical mask wearing. And in Germany, it was mandated outdoors. When I went to this outdoor street market that is right next to my house, there were barricades set up with officials making sure that everyone was walking around with these masks. And anyway, that person, whoever posted that, they're right on the money. That was the point of the mask mandates.
Well, let me just say specifically to address the surgical masks in hospitals. They are there to prevent the bacteria, not the viruses. They were never meant for viruses ever. The bacteria from the surgeon's mouth and nose from dropping into the surgical field. Same reason he or she wears a hairnet, so the infected hair doesn't drop into the field. Not because there's a virus aerosolized 60 feet away. There's a case to be made that you could even increase the power of the jet of aerosol across a room with a surgical mask, but okay. But if you have anything, even so much as a little air of humidity on your glasses, that is a zero efficacy mask for aerosolized virus. If you get COVID early on, you could spit in somebody's mouth and not get COVID because it's transmitted through the aerosols binding on the ACE inhibitors on the nasal mucosa. That's it. That's how it's transmitted. And aerosols are not droplets. They're not even the kind of aerosols that transmit TB. This is a true aerosol respiratory virus. And so if you want to wear a properly fitting N95, go at it. Then you're making sense. And you want to do it and you wear it 1,000% of the time, not drop it down for bites or for popcorn or for tortilla chips, whatever it is, then you have a zero efficacy on that mask. So whatever, everybody, I'm with you. You want to wear it, go wear it. But to mandate it is an insanity. So what do you think is going on? As you sit and theorize about what's happening to you, how do you understand it?
All right, you asked, so I'll tell you. Let me say right off the bat, I'm in trouble in Germany, but my essays, the essays in the book and all of the columns that I wrote at the time are not focused specifically on Germany. They were focused on countries throughout the West. People, if people remember the whole, I call it the new normal Reich. And I didn't make up this term, the new normal. The authorities did. Back in March and April of 2020, when the hysteria started, I actually created, I think it's a 257 tweet thread that is just comprised of headlines and news stories from the mainstream media all around the world. And this is when they rolled out this concept of the new normal. And they were absolutely clear. It was, life is going to change forever. Life as you knew it is over. There's going to be a new normal. There's a deadly apocalyptic virus. The WHO was publicizing a 3.4% death rate. They were publishing all of the pictures of people dropping dead in the streets of China. I compiled all this because it was abundantly clear to me that a new regime was being rolled out. We Americans, I think, will resonate with this. We lived in the war on terror from basically 2001 to 2016, and then they switched the war on terror off, and they kind of turned the war on populism on with Brexit and Trump and the whole reaction to Donald Trump. I covered this in my stories, and what I saw was this war on populism, this reaction to Donald Trump from the powers that be, kind of culminated in the so-called COVID pandemic, what I call the rollout of the new normal. And the message that was coming from the authorities, from the powers that be, in the United States, in Germany, in Great Britain, in Australia, in Canada, in countries throughout the West, the message was clear. The message was the old rules are off. Your democratic rights are gone. We're in a state of emergency, and you will shut up and follow orders, or we will arrest you. We will beat you. We will segregate you from society. We will censor you. We will punish you. It was clear to me that the new rules were being rolled out for us. I called 2020 to 2021, 2022, really in Germany, it was the beginning of 2023. I called this period the shock and awe phase of the rollout of this new normal Reich, what I'm calling it. I believe that what's happening and that what we are all experiencing in different ways in different countries, but all throughout the West, I believe what we are experiencing is the evolution of the global system that we all live in. And it's global capitalism, folks. I know that my conservative readers don't like it when I say capitalism, but that's what it is. We live in one big global capitalist world. And I believe what we're experiencing is the evolution of this system, which is only about 30 years old or so, evolving towards a more totalitarian form. And I rush in to say, when I say that, I'm not talking about the totalitarianism of the 20th century. I'm not talking about Nazism. I'm not talking about Stalinism. I'm talking about a new global capitalist form of totalitarianism that none of us really understand yet. But if you look at what is happening in countries throughout the West, we talked about Great Britain a little bit. You can check with people in Canada, check with people in Australia. They're fighting these new, anti-disinformation laws, anti-hate speech laws in Ireland. They just had a little win. This is happening in countries all throughout the West. It's not just a German story, folks.
But now, I'm guessing you're a classical liberal, and very much so. Yes,
I was.
Yes,
I was. I call myself an old lefty.
Yeah. As so many of the people that sound right-leaning are now. They used to be we're fairly far left. Somehow, by raising your hand and going, "Hey, I'd like to have free speech, and I'd like to question these assholes in power," that makes you an alt-right immediately. So that's amazing. But I feel like one of the favors that COVID did for us is laid bare exactly what you're talking about. And it feels like, from this country's perspective, what has just happened to us is people woke up to it and said, hang on a second, we don't want this. Do you have any, can you see that from where you are? And by the way, I heard this, like I told you, I'm listening to French television and radio in the mornings, and they said the same thing. They said, this is coming to us. We're kind of done also. Does that look real to you from where you sit? Or do you feel like this is just a brief correction in an otherwise unrelenting move we're making?
Well, okay, now it gets really complicated. I'm actually working on a new essay that I'll probably publish tomorrow, trying to articulate some of my thoughts about that, and they're easy to misunderstand. What I've been covering, I started writing these essays, my political satire and my more serious commentary. I started writing them in 2016 because this is when this primarily right-leaning populist backlash began, with Brexit and then with Donald Trump and the right populist movements that have risen up in Europe. And my understanding of those movements, and the people on the right will hate this when I say it, but my understanding of that movement, that right populist movement, is it is a reaction to the evolution of this global capitalist system that I'm talking about.
I would agree. Yes.
This system, and I have no problem with capitalism per se. I have no problem with people working for a living and hiring other people and owning private property and running businesses. I'm not trying to start a communist revolution, folks. When I talk about the global capitalist system, I'm talking about the system that really began with the end of the Cold War. With the dissolution of the Soviet Union, really the last ideological adversary to global capitalism disappeared. And we entered this global capitalist world. So great, capitalism, cool. You can run a business, you can, pay people, you can make money, make a profit. But when you let it run your entire society, what it does is it dissolves the values of your society, and it transforms your society into a pure marketplace. I have no problem with there being marketplaces. I like to buy things in marketplaces, but I don't think that our entire society should be a pure marketplace. And I think that
can I stop you? Can I stop you before you say that?
Let me just finish this one thought though.
Please do.
I think a lot of the culture war stuff that the right populist movement is rebelling against is misunderstood by that movement. A lot of this culture war stuff, it's not really so much about wokeness or cultural Marxism or all of these terms. It is about global capitalism dissolving social values so that it can turn societies into marketplaces, right? That's I think the fundamental conflict of our times.
And so so I make sure I understand what you're saying. So rather than the dissolution of values and gender and normative whatevers coming from the left, you're saying it's the capitalism that's driving that.
Well, the left is completely aligned with it. And of course, the left is aligned with it because the same machine that is, for example, you just mentioned the gender thing, the same machine that is basically dissolving or attempting to dissolve the distinction, between biological sex, and basically say, well, no, you can be any gender you want. You can be any of 148 genders or what have you. It's all fine. They're all products on a shelf, with different brands. You can choose the machine that is doing that is also the machine that dismantled, racism and slavery in the United States.
Yeah.
And it is the machine that has dismantled old traditional values and prejudices, and has created more rights for women. It has the same machine. It's the machine, Doc, that saved us from despotism. It's people think I'm an enemy of capitalism. It was capitalism that brought us out of the old world of despotism and aristocracies. The thing is, when no one is driving that machine, when you don't have a society that has a set of values that says, okay, we're going to use that machine to do this and that, when you give that machine free rein, it starts decoding and wiping out all of your values. And that's that I think is what we're experiencing. We're experiencing that from the machine, and we're experiencing this reactionary, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, but this reactionary backlash against it. People saying, wait, no, we want to hang on to our values. We don't want to live in a pure marketplace.
Yeah. And to some extent, I could see somebody using your argument to defend a return to religious values and a religion and nationalism. Yep,
absolutely. That's okay. And that is really again, the picture that I've been trying to paint for people is those are the two forces that are on the playing field at the moment. There's this big global values decoding, disintegrating machine, and there is a pushback against it. And most of that pushback, the vast majority of that pushback, is coming from folks who are nationalists or from folks who are deeply religious, folks who are trying to hang on to their values, whether it be national sovereignty and or cultural integrity, or they're trying to hang on to their religious values. I'm saying all this without judgment, which I know is strange these days, but I think it's important that we try to understand what's actually happening.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And even to put a finer point on it, because if we're going to decide to push back, you're going to have to understand what you're pushing back against, right? And, I think about Adam Smith's version of free market. As to remind ourselves, he considered himself a moral philosopher. That's how he thought of himself. And he thought he had created a system that reinforced his moral philosophy versus corporatism. Is corporatism the enemy here? Is that what's happening? Because it feels like the centralization of these market systems is where we go off the rail. And I'm appealing to your anti-authoritarian impulses as I say that. Go ahead.
I think it's more complex than that, because I don't see it as centralized. What I really see is when I talk about, sometimes I call it globocap, for short, to be funny. When I talk about the global capitalist system that we live under, I'm not talking about a cabal of individuals, having martinis on Bill Gates' yacht, planning all sorts of nefarious conspiracies. I'm talking about a system. And some people call that system corporatism. People have other names for it. I call it global capitalism because I think that's what it is. But what I'm talking about is a system. The point that I often make is you could point out all the bad guys, that you want, and, Gates or Soros or Klaus Schwab or whoever. You could remove all of these guys tomorrow, and they would be replaced with other guys who would perform exactly the same function within the system. It is the system that is driving things.
Gosh. I don't know if this is your intention or if I bastardize what you're intending, the point you're intending to make, but I feel like I want to go back and read my de Tocqueville and Adam Smith, because not maybe out of pure nostalgia, but I feel like there might be some solutions in there, because my instinct is that the more local you can get, the less these guys can have sway. We're gonna have to. I'll let you give final word, then I got to wrap this up. CJ, I am so pleased to have spoken to you, and we're with you. We got your back, but I don't know if it'll make any difference. But there are people championing behind you and applauding your efforts. But I'll give you final thoughts here based on that and what I said about de Tocqueville and Smith.
Yeah, the big picture, I don't know how to get there from here, but it's pretty clear to me that what is needed are societies where people democratically decide what their values are, and then run their societies according to their values. And yeah, I'm an old lefty. Those values, those social values, wherever they come from, right? And whatever they're based on. But those social values have to be more important than the functioning and the advancement of the marketplace. The last word that I want to say, and it's a point that I want to stress, and I've said it here, is about my case. And it's going before the German Supreme Court now. It is not really important whether I personally win my case. What is important is that people begin to focus their attention on cases like mine. And there are many of them in Germany. And as we said, there are many of them in many other countries throughout the West. People need to wake up and pay attention to what's happening, because it's not going to stop. This crackdown on dissent is going to continue until we stop it.
Well, I hope you win and then have a chance to come back here. I suspect you'll find your greatest source of relief would be the great state of Florida or Texas or Tennessee, because if you go to New York or California, it's not going to be much different. But that is part of the genius of our system. We have these different states with different ways of running their governments, and so be it. So we'll send people to CJ_Hopkins_Z23, and I hope to have an update from you someday soon of the great triumph you have in the Supreme Court.
Let's hope so. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. You got it. Thank you for being here. All right, let's get Remy in here. Remy, he, of course, is somebody I got to know in the Jordanian desert. He's from Nigerian royalty until the death of his father, and they were stripped of everything, and he ended up living in the Bronx. He made some not so great decisions, but got it together because of the extraordinary efforts of one recruiter. He became a decorated Navy SEAL and intelligence officer. He is now working against human trafficking. You can follow him on X at Remy Adeleke, REMI ADELEKE. And now you can see him on Ryan Holiday's masterclass at masterclass.com. Remy, welcome back. Oh, we got no sound. You must be muted there. Your picture looks great. You look great, but there must be some.
Sorry.
There you are. You're back.
Sorry about it. Hey, Dr. Drew, thank you so much for having me on. It's always good to reconnect with you, brother.
So tell us about the masterclass.
Yeah, so we shot this masterclass back in August, and it's very interesting because it utilizes, the idea behind it is utilizing ancient philosophies from different philosophers such as Socrates and some other fellows from back in the day, Stoicism and so on and so forth, and kind of trying to find different nuggets that we could take from those philosophies and apply to our everyday life today. And interestingly, they found out about me because they came across my book Transformed, and they found that naturally in my book Transformed, they were these kind of like philosophies that were in the book that I was just doing. I was just carrying out. I was just living out in my everyday life. But and some of these philosophies related to resilience, others related to love, others related to mental toughness. And so that's kind of came to me. And so when we started shooting, they was like, hey, we don't just want you to help teach the class. We want you to touch on your book as well and different stories. Right. So, yeah.
Right. Did you get to know Ryan?
Yes. We shot together, and he was an amazing guy and very knowledgeable. Yeah.
Did you come upon his and my relationship and what the connection is there? Do you know this?
No, I didn't even know that you had a relationship until now.
So it's very interesting. So first, let me just say that the Enchiridion by help me, Caleb. Who wrote the Enchiridion? Is it one of these Stoic philosophers? His stuff comes up a lot in the mental toughness sort of thinking in the military. I bet Ryan brought his name up. Help me, Caleb. Enchiridion is by
Epictetus. No, that's not it. I'm trying to find it. It's a Greek philosopher.
The name just he's a Greek philosopher. The name just translates as belonging or thing. That's what his name translates to. He was a slave. And he had to endure a lot of horrible stuff. And he talks about mental toughness, and a lot of military people have endured a lot thinking about his sorts of philosophy. It's going to come to me, but anyway. So
Epictetus?
There are 20. What is it? Epictetus. Yes, thank you. Epictetus.
Yeah, that guy.
About 25 years ago, I was giving a little symposium. I was sent in by like Church and White or something to a couple of us went in to talk to a group of college editors, newspaper editors.
Okay.
And we gave our little thing. And at the end, this young 19-year-old came up to me, or maybe he was 20-year-old, and said, what are you reading now? What do you read? What are you up to? What are you reading? And I go, well, what's your name? Ryan Holiday? Okay. Ryan, I'm a complete nerd. I read a lot of crazy stuff, but right now I'm reading Stoic philosophy. I'm reading the Enchiridion by Epictetus. And he goes, okay, I'm going to go read it. I go, look, it's not easy. It's not light reading. It's moral philosophy. And he goes, no, I want to read it. And that led him into his whole career on, isn't that crazy? And we reconnected like 15 years later, and we've been out to dinner a number of times and stuff. And, I just think the most of him. And so
It reminds me of the origin story for Batman when he finally meets Joker face to face, and I don't mean this as you being Joker in a bad way. I mean, and Joker says something like, "How did you become who?" And Batman's like, "You made me. You made me." So you made Ryan Holiday, brother.
I made Ryan Holiday. I brought Stoic philosophy to the world by being a crazy nerd and whatever that was, probably in late 1990s or something. But anyway, so he has obviously brought that. And it's funny, Stoic philosophy has value. It starts coming in when societies are changing and they're kind of down on their back and need help. People start looking for meaning, and this is exactly what they go to. So tell them more what they're going to learn, why they should go. Let's hear about your masterclass.
Yeah, so 100%. So we're gonna teach you through the class how to deal with certain issues that you may be dealing with in your life, such as anger, such as negative self-talk, and how to transpose your negative self-talk into positive self-talk, how to deal with disappointment, how to deal with rejection, how to manage arguments as it relates to love and relationships. I remember when we were filming, and I was able to watch all of the episodes, so it's in there. But I was discussing, and I won't give away too much, right? I don't want to spoil it. But I shared a story about me and my wife, and how my wife's a doctor. You met my wife, Dr. Drew. My wife's a doctor, so she's a trained healer, and I'm a trained killer, right? And so we come from these two completely different worlds. And because of these two different worlds that we come from, especially her being raised in a wealthy family, me being raised in the Bronx and poverty, we tend to get into some clashes. And how do you deal with someone you love when you come from a completely different background as them? And so we kind of dissect that in the masterclass as well. So it's a very intuitive class. It's a class that brings forth a lot of great information that people can apply in everyday life. Like, everybody's not going to be a Stoic. Everybody's not going to be a former Navy SEAL, but everybody is a human being, right? Everybody breathing, walking, and talking is a human being. And so because of that, all face challenges.
Yeah, and I would argue that, man, we need a big dose of that, not just in our interpersonal lives, but in dealing with, everybody in all context. I mean, all this stuff has broad application. So I saw that he tapped you, and I went, perfect. That's exactly. This is the right guy for this, and you know it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
who
sir.
else is in the master classes?
Dr. Alexandra, she's a relationship expert. She has taught she teaches a class at Northwestern University. So she really dives deep into the.
We just froze Remy. Caleb, is that on our end, or is that?
No, that's his Zoom. Let's see. He's.
Shoot.
And then Dr. Jennifer, she's a philosopher out of South. I'm sorry. Did I get cut off?
You froze for a second. We heard Dr. Alexander and Northwestern, and then it stopped. And this stopped again. It stopped again. Yeah, it keeps stopping. It keeps freezing on us.
Is it? It's all, everything's good on my end.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. You're good. You're back. Here we go.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. Dr. Alexandra, she's a relationship expert and out of Northwestern University, and she's a professor there as well. And then Dr. Jennifer, and she's a philosophy teacher in, I believe, South Carolina. And so she really goes deep into the application, like, how do you apply these ancient philosophies to your everyday life? So it's a very well-rounded team. And then obviously Ryan Holiday is he's the maestro.
Indeed, he is. He has dedicated his life to this. It's so interesting what he has done, and he still lives on a ranch out in Texas, and runs a bookstore. I hope that's still going okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and what's going on, if you don't mind me asking, on the trafficking front and all those battles you're fighting? Is there any update we need to hear there?
Two quick updates. I just joined the board of Traverse Project, which is an anti-human trafficking nonprofit and that utilizes the World Wide Web and different cyber technologies in order to track down traffic victims, but also to find, locate, and disassemble human trafficking rings. So that's Traverse Project. It's a very, very amazing nonprofit. A lot of the guys at the top of the nonprofit are former special operations guys. So if anybody would like to kind of go check out the project, check out the website and donate or find out how they can support, they can go to traverseproject.org. And then, I just got out of a meeting with a really major casting director for Unexpected Redemption. So we're making headways with that. She's one of the best in the business. So she's going to help us get, she read the meeting went really, really good. And she was just like, I read the script. I love the script. I was just, I didn't know that all of this stuff happens. Just like everybody every time we do this podcast, I get so many people, every time I do your show, Dr. Drew, I get so many people who reach out to me. I didn't know that existed. I didn't know about human trafficking. I didn't know about organ. I didn't know about this. And so she read the screenplay and she was like, I didn't know about this, but I want to help make this movie and tell this story because this is an important topic. So that's amazing. So that we took 4 steps forward.
Right.
A few minutes.
Congratulations.
Ago, so, yeah.
Is there? Can people still go see the short version?
Yep. The short version is still on YouTube, The Unexpected. And so you could just search The Unexpected, Bronze Lens, Remy Adeleke, it all pop up there. And then the feature version is going to be called Unexpected Redemption. We're also raising financing for the feature version so that we can help get like the biggest stars we can get. So if anybody's interested in finding out how they can invest in a project that it's not going to only make the money, that's not the main goal of it, but it's going to get the word out there to a wide international audience via organ harvesting, then they could get in contact with you and then get in contact with me. We can make it happen.
All right. So we'll follow you on X, Remy Adeleke. Remy,
Yes,
always
sir.
great to see you. Say to your wife, is there anything else we need to review here? You got everything?
Yes, sir. That's it for now. I got some other things I got to keep on the wrap for now, but yeah, I'll come back with more intel later.
As soon as you unwrap, I want the intel. All right. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Sir. All right. Thank you, Dr. True. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, man.
Oh, I should tell him. I saw our friend. Oh, for goodness sakes, my brain today is like on half power. Well, I'm not going to be able to come up with it. So let's bring up the guest coming here, coming our way to. Do we have the Susan show this afternoon? Near-death experiences.
3 Pacific.
Yep, that's correct. That'll be at 3:00. Montel Jordan is who I was trying to think of, Remy. If you're listening to me, I saw Montel, spent an afternoon with him. He's great, and his wife. Laura Logan coming in on the 19th. Dr. Claire Craig has some updates, some really interesting updates, and Jessica Rose will be back with us as well. Chef Andrew Grohl comes back in. Is he going to be in studio, Caleb? Do you know on that? Because I only ask because he brings gigantic amounts of amazing food when he shows up. So
yes, and it always
I'll
makes me
look
very
forward to that
hungry
event.
to watch you guys enjoying that from thousands of miles away.
Oh no!
The one bad part about working remotely.
He brought so much beautiful meat last time. We ate it for a week. It was unbelievable. Kelly Victory is coming in with Ed Dowd on December 4th, so we just got that set up. I think it's going to be an early show, like 11 o'clock or something. I don't know. Keep an eye out for when that's going to be. And otherwise, let's see. So our next show will be Tuesday. Is that the 19th? Let me double check the calendar. I think that's correct. Tuesday the 19th. Yep.
Yes.
And then we have the 20th. It doesn't look like... I'm looking. Oh, I see. The 20th, we may have we may have a very special guest on the 20th. Was that going to have to be early? Do you know? At noon. I see it on the schedule for noon. So I'll telegraph it to say there's a very special guest from the UK who may be coming in on that day. We'll see. Otherwise, we'd probably roll it back to 3. And Claire Craig on the Thursday, the 21st, is also noon Pacific because she is also coming in from the UK. So thank you for being here today. Thank you to my guests. I hope you enjoyed that CJ story. It is quite something to hear that story. It could happen here. Or that's the thing that we got to watch out for. There's, and again, the German Republic is designed to try to avoid these sorts of excesses. And here they go and start becoming excessive in the name of preventing the excesses. You see how crazy that is? This is the danger of political philosophies. Started with Rousseau. Rousseau's whole thing was man everywhere in chains must be forced to be free. As soon as you start forcing people to be anything, you have now moved into dangerous territory politically. So thank you all for being here. We will see you this afternoon at 3:00 for Susan's show. Be there. See you then. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.